Welcome builders to How Would You Build It? The podcast that dives deep into the dynamic world of startups and product creation right here in South Africa and Africa. This show is more than just interviews. Every week we sit down with the brilliant minds to provide a masterclass for building digital products amidst the challenges and opportunities unique to our continent. From seasoned founders to dynamic product managers, we uncover the unique stories and strategies behind some of the most innovative digital products being built. So for all the aspiring founders and product builders out there, you'll discover that each episode is a wealth of practical wisdom and local and actionable insights. Make sure to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to our podcasts and connect with us on social media for even more content. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome builders to another episode of How Would You Build It? It's been a few weeks since our last episode, but we're back with a bang. We have another awesome startup, nice and local, doing some cool stuff. But I'm not going to tell you about them. I'm going to get them to tell you about it. But to start, if I can just ask Calvin to introduce yourself. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Bobby. Thanks for having me. I guess there's a couple things you could know about me. The classic thing would be to say that I'm vegan, because of course I have to tell you that. Tree hugger, hipster. No, I'm joking. The reality is it's always difficult to do an intro to an audience of people that's not in front of you, but very keen to be here today. And very keen to get through this. Thank you.
Cool. So what's your role at Sebenza before we move on to Wes?
So my active role, I mean, Wes and I do the same thing mostly in title. So, as a co-CEOs, but much more involved with the product side, marketing, finance. Okay. So we've kind of split the portfolio somewhat into, what our core strengths are, and we kind of work like the yin and yang,
Nice. Cool. I like that. Thank you very much. Keen to talk about a product then and marketing with you. Wes, welcome. Your turn.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself. Who are you? What's your role at Sebenza?
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. So I'm Wes. I like I've said, we co-founded the business together in 2017, late 2017. I predominantly look after the sales function, commercial, stakeholder engagement, things like that. So where my core strength, I guess, lies as well.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. So I'll be diving into asking you I'm going to pry into those roles that you guys just said in time. But I think, Wes, just to get our audience on the same page, can you please share your elevator pitch? What is Sebenza and what problem are you solving?
Yeah, thank you. So Sebenza, founded out of like a necessity to improve the lives of commuters. What we are is a platform-based business with routers and taxis and buses. To date, we're in just over 8,000 vehicles now nationally. We're the official partner for digitization for Santaco nationally, with right of first refusal on any route in the country. And I think the thing that we can do really well is make sure that we can get connection to people. And, the elevator pitch, I think, from a business or B2B perspective, is that we've created an opportunity for people to be able to interface with commuters in a meaningful manner, where there's often not much to do within that time. And we've taken out all the difficulties of having to deal with the perception around the industry and brand safety and all of those things, and we've managed to curate an experience for commuters as well as brands to interface.
Love it. That's pretty cool. I must say, I think we've had a few founders and podcast episodes with people in this industry, and I think it's fascinating. So I'm just going to brag a little bit. I've just come back from a holiday in Europe, and the taxi industry doesn't exist. I mean, there are buses and there are trains, and they're very operational and they're very busy and they do the things. South Africa, it's a bit of an interesting beast. It's a very different sort of way of life, a different thing. We don't have all that infrastructure and stuff. So super interesting, because it's a multi-billion rand industry if you think about it. And so that's why we've got a number of founders that have already been on the podcast. So Calvin, if you can just share sort of that startup journey, like, it sounds like you guys, it's not your first startup you and Wes have started, but what got you guys going into this? Felt like you needed to address this. Can you just share that opening, that early stage story of you guys starting up?
Sure. I think as any good story, it starts with a few beers amongst mates, and Wes and I think we connected on our interest for entrepreneurship, early on. highlighted an interesting problem that we saw at that time. So I was working as a promoter, busy doing my masters at Wits, and sharing my experiences. And Wes was working at a massive finished goods bakery, and he was hiring activations companies, and so it was really understanding from my perspective what I thought was missing, and from his perspective. And the big piece there was data. I was saying there's not a good way to actually get the feedback back to brands and for them to understand how people are enjoying that product or not enjoying it. And that was the same problem that he was getting, is that he wasn't getting the feedback on the ground. And so, we created a digital platform that allowed activators to, get that feedback straight from the mouths of the consumer. Also look at who the shoppers are in the store, who's buying and not buying, tracking where the promoters are. We're not developers, but we're definitely dreamers, and we weren't scared to use a bit of tech to try and solve those problems. And I think from that very interesting use case of understanding the data space, it was very contingent on our promoters being in the stores at that time and physically gathering that data themselves. Mm-hmm. And so we started looking around, and I just got back from a trip from Europe. Very lucky us there. My family's from there, and Wi-Fi is just a massive tool that people use there, and to the point where when you connect, it knows who you are, it gives you specific specials based on your buying patterns, and it links to your rewards profile, and they were just light years ahead. And so looking at what you can do with connectivity and Wi-Fi in that space, we started to unearth that technology. And I don't think it's a logical step to think, well, who needs Wi-Fi the most? Who needs connectivity the most? It didn't make sense to be, on your phone when getting Wi-Fi, watching videos while you're shopping, but where does that make sense? And who can it be most impactful for? So it was then that we, started looking into the taxi space and did our own market research. And I think it was quite quick that we could see the opportunity here, and very exciting space, and one that we then grabbed with both hands and spent a few years trying to figure out how the hell we're going to do this one.
Yeah, I think what's super fascinating. So, like I mentioned to you guys before press record, I worked at Sweep South, and also just being part of the open letter and the podcast. One of the biggest things that a lot of companies don't know is what's happening in the informal market, like the townships. Like there's so much unknowns there, and for marketing people are trying to reach them, there's just like this black hole, like they don't know how to reach them, they don't know their behaviors, there's no data out there. I do think that we're slowly moving into that, and I think a Sebenza in the industry is actually helping to start closing that gap. Like people want to understand what's the total addressable market, but they don't know. Hey, South Africa's got 60 million people, but we don't understand what half of them are actually doing on a day-to-day basis. There's literally no data. Sweep South was farming a lot of data. I think we were learning so much about, a cohort of people that no one really understood. So Wes, can you talk to that and kind of where Sebenza as a name and as a concept came out?
Yeah, so I think like the first thing that always sticks out in my mind when we start having these conversations is that people also assume that the mass market is one market in its entirety. And what we found through working with 128 different associations in like 40 different locations is that everyone is completely unique. And so by trying to do things the same each time, that's where people set themselves up for failure. And so what we're trying to do is also deliver our service in such a way that it's locally contextual and relevant, and that it's more consumable for those people that are within that specific location. I think how the name came about, we kind of had, this is also one of the longest stories that we'll probably unpack during the session, but many guys have thought this is a brilliant idea, and many guys have thought this is a terrible idea. And we've had different shapes and forms of investors and backers, and partners, and it's been
But it's
it's been a
important that
ride.
there are
But
other founders listening to this that understand that, right? Because they'll come up with an idea, and some people are going to tell you it's a good idea, and they might be lying to you, and some are going to be honest with you and say it's a bad idea. But you need all that feedback, right?
yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we talk about often, with our managers and things now. I think we just over 50 people in our business now,
Okay.
and we talk often about perseverance, and then that little thing about just not giving up. And the example we like to use is we pulled a pitch deck that was a version 88.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I get flashbacks about that thing. Like, I can't open it. I still haven't for like 2.5 years, but I think we pitched Sebenza over 400, 500 times, in the space of about 2.5 years, 3 years. So we were prolific, and we just didn't give up. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we've learned, is that perseverance is 50% of success, I guess. Where the name comes from, one of these people that did believe us very early on, great people, ended up not working out, and that's okay. But sort of like just getting to what the essence of the business is about. And we were talking about this thing that we want to do, and like we want to enable people. And our vision as a business is to lead digital inclusivity, which we've sort of streamlined and worked over the last sort of 5 or 6 years. But where it started is like Sebenza's to work and to hustle and to be productive. And so we wanted to enable that, and that's kind of where the name came from.
Awesome. So it's nice that you shared kind of your vision with us already.
I just thought I'd chuck that in there.
No, I love it. That's why I had to look at my questions. Like, damn it, that was my next question, but you've already said it, so I have to move on to the next question. Um, so Calvin, like, how have you guys navigated such a complex industry? Like, Wes mentioned how many associations you guys have had to talk to. How do you build trust in such a complex environment and so many stakeholders?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's often one of the first questions that people ask us when they understand the scale of the business today, and you just think how diverse, the 300,000 taxis, and in every single place, that's how our population move. So the scale is incredible, and it's really about bringing it down back to the basics. We talk about giving value to everyone at every level, because it's quite complex the way that you look at it. And maybe I'll explain it, because not a lot of people would know about this. You obviously have your commuter, and your commuter is the driver of value. At the end of the day, those are the users on the platform. Those are the guys that are engaging with us, that we want to create, that digital value for. But very interestingly, the driver is almost the custodian of the device. They make sure that the stickers on the taxi are always up, and they're shouting about Sebenza. They wear their yellow bucket hats every day, and they talk about it, and they want people to connect, because they feel proud that their taxi provides connectivity, and that it provides so much value to
Yeah,
the
it's a
community.
value prop. I mean, absolutely. Use my taxi. I've got data for you guys, and I'm sure that, because again, a lesson from Sweep South is the taxi drivers won't leave from their destination until that taxi's full. So while they're waiting, people are busy, checking their
Well, yeah, and
Instagram,
some people will wait. They'll miss that taxi and get on the next one, because they
wait
want
for the one with
Sebenza
Wi-Fi.
on their trip as well. Yeah.
Love it, love
And
it, love it.
so it is a real value, rands and cents value. You don't have to spend money on data. You can let your employer know you're going to be late, or find out the directions to that interview. I mean, those are the stories we've heard, and it has a real impact. I've seen a stat. It says that for every million people that are connected to the internet, your GDP can grow up 1.2%. I mean, these kinds of facts or stats that are out there are incredibly powerful. And so anyway, so talking about, the driver, I mean, the drivers love it. They use, Sebenza Wi-Fi more than anyone else.
Well,
They obviously have their downtime in the day, and they're watching videos, and kicking back, waiting for the next rush hour. You've got your ranks. There's marshals in those ranks. They're directing all the traffic. The ranks also, you have to pay for the facility fee to use that rank. That's infrastructure that's there, and so you have to be a part of that. There's the routes. which, multiple ranks on a route, and those routes you have to buy into, and there's, the association that then governs that route and other routes. And then from the association level, you've got, regional associations, provincial associations, and then your national associations, which the biggest one would be Simtaco. And so we started on both sides. We went and created value for the user. We spoke to drivers, and it's free to have our product installed. We invested in the hardware. We pay for the data costs. We put the stickers on, and so we've taken up that. Often the question the drivers ask is, "Oh, how much is this Wi-Fi?" And we say it's free, and the guys are super chuffed. And then from the other side, we had to sit down with the chairmen and the presidents of the big associations, and we had to explain to them why we're different. Like Wes said, we were always up against it because so many guys have tried this, so many people have tried this and failed. And it was the biggest obstacle was having the opportunity to prove them wrong, and a lot of that actually came from us just doing it and then showing them that it worked. Sometimes you need to take that risk, and in this industry, there's fewer bigger risks. But we knew that there was so many haters and negativity around people that have tried this before that we just had to show them we could do it. And once we did that, it was incredible how, we started getting fantastic support. And over the last, 5 years that we've really been close with the industry as a whole, we've just proven again and again that we are trustable, we are trustworthy, we're dependable. If we say we're going to do this, we will do it. And it's really just a slow trust that's developed, and the brand of Sebenza has become synonymous with the commuter and with the industry. And that's what it takes. It takes a long, slow burn.
So I want to move into what this platform is as such, because what I'm understanding is it's a place for activation. So whereas you're part of sales and Calvin, you're part of product, and sales and product need to be best friends. So I just want to understand, I don't know who can answer this the best, but well, I guess I have to go to Calvin in terms of product, is like, how do you know what to build? How are you doing that? How did you do it in the beginning? And obviously you've evolved over a couple of years, and then maybe ways you can then jump in and just kind of understand how you're selling that, what you're building, and then selling it to who, like understanding who those customers are. So if you can just lay that land for me, please.
Sure. I think a nice place to start with that question is just the dynamic with Wes and I, is that, we think very differently. And so we know what the problem is, and we both try and solve that in different ways. And I think the product is, it's both of our ideas that come together, and it's staying up late and saying, I think this is going to work, and really testing out those ideas. But, essentially it came down to engagement and having a reason to come back to engage with the platform instead of just going to the end product. The way that I like to think about how the platform is built is that, a lot of companies, if you build a great ecosystem, you might invest in marketing and put up boards, or, run ads on Facebook and put funds behind that. But we didn't do that. We put that into Wi-Fi. We put that into something going back as a reward back into the user's hands that creates, real value. And if you create something that is valuable enough, that's its own marketing. It's its own reason for someone to come and use your platform, not because you've created an amazing brand up front. We put the product and the value up first, and then the brand came later. And so, you'll see it's free Wi-Fi, and underneath that, quite small, Sebenza, because people know free Wi-Fi. People are always going to want that. And so, that's been a very interesting part of that build. But essentially, it's very much around our currency, our Sebenza bucks. The Sebenza bucks is the golden thread that runs through the platform. In life, nothing is free. Bobby, I'm sure you've learned that, and it's the same reaction. It's the same reality here as well. So we've got huge amounts of Wi-Fi that we give out, and so we need something. And the user can decide how they want to trade their time or their attention for the Wi-Fi. They can watch ads, or they can fill out surveys, or they can play games, or read the news, or whatever it is, but they need to do something. And I think that concept, it's a step further than just gamification, but really just saying, look, we're an honest trade. You can watch ads. If you hate watching ads, you don't have to watch any ads. We're going to give you the option. And I think that's that approach to putting the user first, and being upfront with what the value trade is a big part of what made this product work. You look at a Facebook and maybe they're monetizing data, but you don't know that. They don't make that very clear. For us,
No, not at all.
we monetize data. We ask you the question, and we're going to give you Sebenza bucks. And if you're not comfortable, that's fine. You can watch an ad or you can play a game.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Okay, so I understand this. This is quite smart. I love it because your product is the marketplace or the platform, and you've actually enabled people to get there and made that the way to get to your marketplace. Like, actually, hold on. So you've got this infrastructure that sends people there. I love it. Brilliant. So Wes, how do you, so let's talk about like understanding the sales cycle, like how do you, if a user can skip an ad, how do you sell this to your customers, your business, your B2B guys?
Yeah, so it's one of the things around marketing specifically is that some people like incentivized marketing, some people don't. So we've created two options within our platform, right? So there's a infinite scroll where you can just scroll and look at all the content and things, and there's incidental ads within there. But there are also the ones like Calvin described, which are rewarded ads, and those aren't skippable. So you have to. It's kind of like the YouTube-esque model. You only get the reward if you actually complete the action. But I think what we're seeing in terms of like, how we're taking it to market, our platform is performing incredibly well from a click-through perspective, from an engagement perspective, higher numbers than I've ever seen. I mean, the first time they brought me, we have like location-based ads, which like if you're driving on the taxi within 2 kilometers of one of our partners, there's a pop-up or something, a call to action. And the team brought me the first statistics from the pilot that we ran actually with McDonald's. They were our first like sort of guinea pigs of that. And the click-through rate was like 16.2%. And I just said, guys, someone's math is not mathing today. Like, let's just double check these numbers. And so we did. We double checked and we triple checked, and to our sort of almost disbelief, like that was the real number. And McDonald's have been an always on customer of ours for the last 4 years, I think, subsequent to that first pilot.
So how are you guys managing your data? I mean, data is such an important part of any business, and like having that data. I mean, your data is embedded in the product that you're trying to build, right? You're trying to it's essential to what you're trying to do and to be able to sell it. So how are you guys approaching your data strategy? How important is it to you guys?
Yeah, I think data's always going to be important, specifically with I think where everything's going from a industry perspective. There are many preclusions now with cookies and all those things that are happening. First party data is a hot topic, and I think almost a happy accident for us is that the way that we collected it actually excludes us from those preclusions, so we're able to utilize that data, and we have just over 5 million unique people that have used our platform. So we're sitting on this well of data now that we're very fortunate to have, but in the way that we design our platform, it's given us this opportunity. And so we're leveraging that pretty hard at the moment, finding a way not only to create value for the business, but also for users. I think that's the most important thing, is that we're using that data to inform product decision making, to inform what we're building, what we need to bring, who are the partners. And I think, just to circle back to the thing that you were talking about earlier, which is how do we create trust within the industry? And it's also by being responsible with who and what we bring into the environment. And so, we're very conscious of that and make sure that we're doing good things for the industry and not just being extractive.
Yeah, I love that point. I really, really do. I remember going to a talk a good couple of years ago. It was about building with ethics, with an ethical like approach, because I got a book on there. It's called Hooked. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's a whole cycle of how to get people in, and you got to have an ethics behind it, because you don't want to it's like a drug, you don't want to be sending people down the wrong rabbit hole every day for having the wrong motives behind what you're doing. It's something that people don't think about enough, and so it's nice that you guys thinking about it off the bat. So I love the data conversation. So Wes, you have one sentence to answer this next question, and then Calvin, you have to answer the same question. What metric do you look at every morning when you start your day at Sebenza?
Unique active users.
Nice. Calvin, what's yours?
Yeah, it's the same, but the second thing will be,
One sentence, Golf.
number of ads served. There was a comma in that sentence. Thank you,
Oh, I
Wes.
see. Okay.
Getting technical, yeah. What was
But
it? Sorry, Colin?
the number of ads that we serve.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So Calvin, going back to you, like, where do you see this going in terms of the future? I mean, like, there's this big thing called Starlink that, everyone thinks about that's supposed to solve internet problems, and we know South Africa's got a bit of a blocker there. But do you see that, being a problem in the future? Where do you see this industry going?
I think altruistically, I think it's a great opportunity for the country as a whole. We've always known and hoped that this data problem isn't something that's going to be around forever. We do believe in connectivity and access to connectivity. And so for us, it's very much about, we kind of have this window where we can solve a problem that exists today. And we're doing as much as we can to maximize the time to get users to care about the brand, to get value within our platform, and to build products that really speak to the user, to the commuter, and try and make the commute is better. Ultimately, we're a platform for the commuter. We're not a Wi-Fi business, but like I explained earlier, Wi-Fi is the means to an end. And so I think that these technologies will come in. They're too important and too powerful, and they can do too much not to. And I think anyone that hedges against that will be wrong. And so we're very much, for the concept of connectivity. And if it's going to be Starlink, I think that it shouldn't be blocked. I think it's that we need to get this show on the road. We need to get these guys in and start connecting our people.
Mm. Nice. I like that. I like it. I like you kind of embracing it, leaning into it instead of like, saying it's a problem. So where's for other founders that are kind of also, driving the sales of their startup and things like that, like what are the biggest lessons you've learned, in harnessing the relationships with your customers and your, in a B2B strategy? Because that's something that every founder needs to figure out.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned is when you are trying to sell something, don't try and sell your product. Don't try and see what you can get from your customer, but what can you give him? Like that's the biggest thing. Like, what am I giving you today? Not like how much can I get from you? What can I get from you? It's what am I giving you today? Am I giving you access to a market? Am I giving you, something that's unique that you can't get from anyone else? And like that would be the focal point of like what I would say around that.
And the importance of building communities, because it feels like, I don't know, I have this feel and this, I just look around and, the age of AI and, the ability to build software a lot quicker and easier, I guess. There's a lot more startups up there that should be coming to the front, right? We should be seeing more startups coming. So there needs to be a different way. I feel like there's a localization. I feel like there's a community side that really needs to hone in. I mean, Calvin, can you talk to that? Like how important is community building in growing your business in this new world that we have?
Yeah, in terms of, startups and creating a community of innovation, if that's your question, it's incredibly important. It's been tough. Raising capital is not easy in this country. Like I've said, you have to prove everything every
Yeah.
time, and there's not enough support for startups. I mean, certainly for us, we try to get work with incubators and get this early seed funding you always hear about. And, at the end of the day, it was blood, sweat, and tears that got us there. And, looking at what, for example, what we can do to the rest of the community is to help give them access to distribution, for free. And that's certainly one of our goals is to to get incredibly innovative products that can really benefit the lives of people that have been excluded. One, because of the lack of data, the lack of connectivity, lack of smartphone penetration to date, which has very much changed. And because of that, there just hasn't really been any support or any way to get into the mass markets and actually get real innovation built by South Africans for South Africans. We really believe that that's something that we can offer. And so we see our platform, as a blank canvas that provides the infrastructure and the connectivity and the education. And we're saying, well, let's do the next piece together, because we can't build everything. And it's something that we're very passionate about.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you bring up. Just the amount of lives that you're touching, and as you're talking, I'm just thinking about that complex industry that you spoke about. I mean, just thinking of, you've got the commuters, which is core to your business. You've got the taxi associations, then you've got the businesses, and you're just like, there's so many intricate people that you got to keep together. So, is it just the two of you as founders? And so you've built up the team to 50, you said, Wes?
Yeah, 50-ish. So Carv and I did start the business, but we do have Raleigh and Ian, which we sort of see as co-founders. They're very early stage and very integral in how we built the business. But I think me and him had the idea, and we invested the first sort of 6 to 12 months and a bit of capital from our other business into it. But yeah, those other two guys have been instrumental in getting this right as well.
Okay. And just explain the journey of growing your team, because obviously there's quite a high operational element to this. I can imagine installing routers, setting them up, doing all the things. There's a lot of operation, it's quite high touch, right? So just explain doing all of that and building a team to assist you.
Yeah, so we didn't really know much about that segment, I guess, what we were doing. We sort of went into the rank with our prototype and walked to a taxi and said, "Hey man, can we put this in? Can we try?" And the guy said yes. His name's Joe, so taxi Sebenza AA, I guess. And we kind of had a guy that sort of knew about car sound, and so he was kind of helping us on the side, wiring these things and splicing them into the actual harness of the taxis.
Wow.
Then we popped our first taxi. And in a panic, we had to tow the taxi into like an auto electrician. We had to pay the owner and the driver for their time and apologize and fix everything. And so you only make that mistake once, and then you start really considering how you do things. So we got a little bit smarter at that. We sort of got professionals that understand how to install these things and how to make sure that it's safe and quick and everything. And I think that was one of the prerequisites, is when you have such a limited amount of time with the taxi, the guy can't be off the road, he's not making money. So our whole installation process is less than 10 minutes now. So literally while you're in line, in the rank, we smash it in the taxi and you're gone. And so we don't have to worry about, paying the guys. And we did in the start, we're like doing whatever we could to figure it out. But so I think that's kind of how we did it. And, we slowly built our team. I think one of the things I'm most proud of in our business is that how we've actually grown people within our environment. Like we have a guy, Sihle, who started as a promoter almost 5 years ago now. And now he's our taxi liaison officer. He's running all the big relationships with taxi guys. And so that's kind of the thing that I think we've done well, is that when people have gotten the context of the business and they really understand what we do, that we harness that potential and we grow that within the team.
And Wes, thinking about it, I think it was very much out of necessity as well, because there's no workforce that's done this. There's no one that's an expert in putting Wi-Fi into anything. Let alone taxis or any other vehicles. And very much every time, the device we use isn't really made to do the stuff that we made it to do. So we had to build our own firmware, and then the platform lives in this captive portal, this middle space between being connected and having open internet and actually not having internet or access at all. And so Bobby, we've had to figure this stuff out every time. And really it's been about finding the right people to help solve the problems, and that are going to make sure that they solve it. And so we've kind of created this team of people that have such niche skill sets to solve those specific problems. Of course, as you grow, finance is finance and the rest of it. But the core team, I think it's our biggest asset. And so, yeah, finance is finance, but that person now has to be held to the same standard as everyone else. And, everyone has to always try and push themselves and solve interesting challenges. And you can imagine, we do pay the taxis for being in their space, so we pay for every taxi that we install.
Interesting.
So now you've got payments to associations and all of the stuff, and it's it's all invoiced and you'll be surprised to know how the industry is very much, it's a business, and they have registered entities and tax. I won't get into that topic, but it's very much an industry that is straight down the middle, and you can do business with them. And I think that was also one of the big things that we've learned, and that a lot of people have been surprised about is, if you have an idea that makes sense to someone that's running a business, whatever that business is, you can do it and you will get buy-in. Not everything is what you see in the media. And I think the taxi industry gets a very bad rep. We don't need bodyguards, or no one's ever threatened us. You know what I mean? That's reality. If you're giving value and you're being a good person in general, you don't have to worry about these things.
That's really cool. That's really, really cool. Some great stories there. Thank you guys for sharing. You touched on something that, like I told you I was going to do, was dive into a bit of the product stuff. So talking about your team and talking about this platform that you built, I assume it's a PWA?
Assume correct. Yeah.
Assumed correct. Yeah, when you said that, so it's sitting in the middle there. Can you just tell me about your tech team and one of the biggest problems you guys had to solve building this platform, considering this middle layer that you had to build for?
Sure. Yeah. So there's obviously, you've got a platform which you can access outside of the taxi. I mean, it's completely independent, and then you've got your router, which ultimately is made for a security protocol, so that you can get someone to sign in and give them share information before you give them internet, and it's really used for throttling them and making sure that people aren't using public Wi-Fi. But there is this interesting middle space called the captive portal, and ultimately you're captive to put in your username and your password. But what we've done is we've taken our whole platform and put it into that middle space. And so it's very specific. A phone won't, for example, it won't prioritize RAM for captive portals, but it does for your browser. So we've had to be very aware of how much processing power the platform needs for your device in order to run that. And that's just such a niche problem. To redirect and what you're doing is you blocking everything but only allowing certain domains. But if you do click on something and it goes to something that we haven't allowed, it won't allow it, right? And so we've had to build our own ad serving tech that can serve ads, that allows click-throughs, that we allow through the Wi-Fi network and through that walled garden. And so I could go on forever about this, but we've had to build a huge amount of custom tech to really solve these specific problems, and that's become one of our biggest assets.
100%, and that's where the South African stories come in. There's very unique problems and unique ways that we've had to solve things. Did you guys outsource your tech build in the beginning, and where are you guys now?
Yeah, so in the beginning it was sort of outsourced, and we had gone to, I think, 4 or 5 guys that have something similar or tried something. Then they say, yeah, it's our technology, and then you get onto the call with the lead developer there, and he only speaks Espanol, and you're like, cool, actually kind of not not as local as you thought. And so people actually couldn't match the business case. Like, I think that was the big thing that we had to our advantage in the beginning, is that me and Calvin had cooked up something that was really, I think, revolutionary in that time, and nobody could actually accommodate that from a build perspective. Like, everybody was using sort of white label products, and could do 50% of it and whatever. So, we decided to take the risk. And again, I think our first CTO, his name's Matun, incredibly smart man, built complex banking systems in Myanmar and all these things. And so we kind of approached him with this crazy idea, and we said, listen, can you build this? And like, what is it going to take? And so we did a deal with him for some cash and some equity. And he built the first like real iteration of it. And I think
Takes
it
a lot
was
of trust there.
huge, huge. But I mean, those are all of the proving points, right? Like we needed to do it. We needed prototypes. We needed all these things. And I think slowly over time, we realized that a lot of the problems couldn't be solved by third parties because it's so contextual, because it's so unique to our environment, and because we're asking it to do something very specific, like Kolf said, like we had to actually take it on ourselves. And so we've built, I mean, the iterations of things over the last 5 years. We've built buddy systems where it's a self like autonomous healing function where one router will look at another one and reboot it. And we built a whole bunch of things.
Wow, that's fascinating. What?
Don't
open such can of worms late in the conversation.
Sorry. Yeah, but look, the guys have built some incredible tech, and now we insource probably about 85% of it. And obviously, I think as you go on in this journey, you really want to build things all on your own, but then you start realizing, well, we don't have to be the best at vouchers because there's 50 guys that can do that better. And then you start creating, sort of partnerships of real value for you instead of trying to take it all on yourself.
I love that. Really understanding what your core strengths are and then play to that. Like, don't try and be everything for your business. Figure out what you're probably best at, what you should be focusing on. Love that. So we're going to have to start. I mean, I feel like we've only just warmed up, but we're going to have to start calling it. We might have to have you back on in X amount of time. But I need to start finishing off with some rapid fire questions, and I'm just going to fire them to you guys as we go. So first thing that comes to mind, just share it with us, and then we'll move on. So just a few. I always like to ask, Calvin, I'll ask with you because you got them in the background, a book that you'd recommend other founders or people building products to read that you've read, obviously.
That's a great question. I've always found with the books that different books speak to you at different times of your journey. So maybe the question then is which one really helped the most and really understand like exactly where we're going. And I think one of the great ones was 0 to 1.
Okay.
So I don't. Do you remember who wrote
Peter
that?
Thiel.
Peter Thiel. Yeah.
The classic.
Yeah. What I like, he talks about being the monopoly, and I think that's a philosophy you guys seem to have taken with the tech that you built. Like, don't get competition. Go build something that no one else is doing. And with just a little bit of insights I've heard from what you said, what the tech you've built, you've taken that approach. So thanks, Peter Thiel, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Wes, as a founder, advice that you have either received or a lesson that you've learned that you feel you need to share to the next founder or startup guy or even a product builder?
Yeah, I think the most important thing that I've learned in this entire journey is you need to pick your partners well. From a personal perspective, from a moral perspective, having people that align to you. There's an old adage that says, if you want to go quick, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I stick by that. Like having the right partners and the right people have been the make or break for us. And we're very, very fortunate to have the team that we have.
Brilliant. Love it. Calvin, if you weren't doing Sebenza, what other opportunity would you be pursuing?
Sure. I'd probably be in some rainforest somewhere hugging
Hunting honeybees.
I studied environmental science and this was, I'm very passionate about that piece, but, this is honestly what I want to be doing every day. And to not do that, I'd have to do something completely different.
Yeah, it's so interesting because whenever I ask these kind of questions, people always say, they've realized as a founder they have to have focus, but there are like 5-10 other things they would like to do, and they're like they almost get scared to tell because they're like, don't steal my idea. But yeah, loving what you do goes a long way, and staying focused, because that word always comes up. Wes, I had a question and it slipped my brain. Oh, of course. What other startup, South African local startup, should we bring onto the podcast, or a founder that we should be speaking to that's in your network?
Yeah, so I think somebody that I really think is doing some incredible work is Khudi from Delivery Speed. I don't know if you've heard of his
I
business.
haven't, no.
I'll butcher it, but effectively it's a delivery as a service or DaaS business that helps people access informal communities and creates value and jobs within those environments. So if I were to put anyone forward, it would be Khudi.
Oh, awesome. I love it. I love that you've kind of kept it within the theme, right? A lot of people have been saying, I haven't heard it of late, but like Africa's the next big investment opportunity for the world. There's so much untapped potential, and the stuff that you guys are doing and this recommendation seems to be tapping into that very kind of theme. So I love it. Thank you for that. Guys, any last takeaways? Where can people find Sebenza?
You can go to our website, sebenza.tech, or you can play around on the platform and just go sebenza.taxi on your phone. We're on all the big social medias. We do a lot of content around the industry as well, and we really want to try and raise awareness about what happens in the taxi industry and be proud of that, the people that take our population to work and home every day. And so yeah, please follow us and come on our journey.
How can they get hold of you?
Of us specifically, we can
how do people get hold of Sebenza, and how
number.
can they help you?
Yeah. Look, going through the website's definitely the best way to get hold of us. You'll be able to, whether it be business lead or you want Wi-Fi or whatever it is, that's the place to get us. Sebenza.tech.
Brilliant. Okay, cool. Guys, it's been a privilege. Thank you very much for joining How Would You Build It? And look forward to watching your journey. Thanks for joining.
Thank you, man. Have a good one,
So
Bobby. Thank you.